post absolutely everywhere, of course. So,
Same.
I think it's a nice thing to be able to do at the start of each stream, though. Whoa, you had that hotkeyed in there. Yeah, that
In
was
my
that was
Discord, yeah.
yeah, that was the fastest. Amazing.
Is this muted so that I'm not getting echo? Yes, it is. Fantastic. It's amazing the speed I can get when I'm typing with my rings on. Because then my fingers aren't noodly.
Ah, okay. special typing rings.
Yes.
Okay. Twitter.
Oh, we have people already. Hi, everyone.
Hi, gang. Wait, you have people already? I can't see that.
There's 19 people in the chat already, according to this.
Hey, Kai, how you doing? Welcome to the stream.
So I have this weird issue with the stream. I can only watch it using Microsoft Edge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's for whatever reason, I don't know what it is. On my other profile, it works fine with my Firefox, but for whatever reason, it's only on this profile, which is my work profile. It only loads on Edge, which is a fun thing to have to load up.
Sorry, I'm taking way too long. Hey, Amethyst42. Hey, Shiniest Crow. And hey, D Grim, sorry.
I'm an afterthought. Grim, you're always in our thoughts.
I just realised I've been writing Scottish independence and ADHD as if the two are like intrinsically linked. Maybe they are. This is how we'll win. One thing I've noticed the Tumblr starts doing now is it actually does like follow-on tags, which has been quite good. So it's like if you tag your first post and then you reblog that post, it'll just apply the tags, which is pretty.
It's been doing that for they messed it up spectacularly with iOS for a while. It was copying everybody's tags, and then they seemed to fix it a wee bit. But it was a function you could get with Xkit for a long time, and then they broke Xkit because they were trying to implement it. So, but yeah, it's been a good feature. I'm enjoying it. So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't get your tags. So.
Oh yeah.
And I'm doing this.
That's annoying. The other thing that Tumblr's done on iOS recently, and you might have seen me rant about it, but now if I'm on the app, above my activity feed, there's just this solid blue bar that's like, you know that your notifications are off. I'm like,
yeah, I've had that.
Do you think I don't know that my notifications are off?
I would go insane if my notifications were turned on. Like, there's just no.
I did say if my notifications for Tumblr were turned on, I could probably use my phone as a vibrator. Like, I think I was slightly more grotesque on Tumblr when I posted about it. Many arts of y'all are acting as grad school paper background. Background sounds got you. Because you suspect you've got ADHD. That's absolutely fine. We're here to, like, this can be a good productivity stream as well, we find.
Speaking... people use it for body doubling, which is nice. So.
Speaking of, Joy, someone did ask if we were going to be putting the audio of this on any podcasty places.
We could, I suppose.
I suppose we're just going to have to make sure that we're really reading out all of the names of everyone who asks us questions.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Mothman's got a good point there about the Twitter notification banner. I hate like Twitter notifications. It's so hard to turn off. Like recommended for use. It's so hard to turn off. Someone you follow liked another post that you don't
Yeah.
interact with, so you get that. You just constant like attacked from all sides. Make sure that you're enjoying that content.
Instagram is worse. Instagram, I get constantly like, oh, you have notifications like constantly. I actually moved it off my front screen so I wouldn't, so I wouldn't see it. But yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I suppose we can kind of get started. Scottish independence. We're there. We have a date that we're aiming for, and the internet's gone mental.
It has, yeah.
It's like
For the first time in years, I'm getting messages from pro-unionist people, and not the fun kind of union people, like the British Better Together people. Because I reblogged something, and I was getting the messages going, "You realise you'll fail without us," and it's going, "We're failing anyway."
it's unfortunately, Joy, it's your duty to reblog them and like just tag me in. I think Unionist Tumblr has me blocked. Like I thought I'd chase them all off. Like there's so few that interact with me now. It's kind of depressing.
I'll just start fights. I'll just tag you into them. It's fine. We can just tag team them. But yeah, I was getting a bunch of just absolutely like, you're an American. Why do you even care? And I'm going, read the profile. Scottish living in America. But yeah, it was a weird one because I'm like, it's been a long time since I've had any people being nasty about it. Especially on Tumblr. Like Twitter's just a cesspit, but not Tumblr is very fuck England. So it was weird to see that kind of
and
discourse over it.
Yeah, and Tumblr always seems to be like a wee bit. It's quite weird. Like they're a wee bit politer. Like people tend to be a wee bit politer on Tumblr, right? And the only reason I say that is because obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm now a super famous TikTok star. But I made a couple of TikToks about independence, and it kicked off a cesspool of like unionist comments, which is like all just amazing. Like, you know,
old white men that are on apps for teenagers.
Oh, like the proper like gammony type guys. You know, you're sort of your Winston Churchill avatars, your like your Union Jack avatars, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, and the thing is like, I suppose I'm kind of used to, if I encounter a unionist on Tumblr or something like that, they do tend to kind of, you know, they'll go down very political attack lines. But go on TikTok and folk are being like, "Go on a diet, you fat fuck." like, oh, okay, this is slightly different group of people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with
my theory is that we drove all the when Tumblr had its purge, a lot of the really mean people went to Twitter and also TikTok.
Yeah.
And now they're there complaining about how awful the sites are. And it's like, yes, you are the problem.
You're the awful. Yeah. I still stand by the fact that Tumblr's the best social media. Like,
it is.
It's
a nightmare, but it's still better than anybody else we've got, because this is the darkest timeline we're in.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that Tumblr has become more usable than a lot of other ones is just desperately depressing. Like, oh, the place that is held together by spaghetti coding and willpower. But yeah, it's the best way to get famous on TikTok, just be in the middle of a shit show post. That's true. True, Mothman.
I mean, it was like the things. I think literally started. I've never been one of those folk that, you know, when Snapchat was really big. I don't know who uses Snapchat now, but I think I don't even think young people use
Snapchat. That's what Snapchat. People who have affairs. That's what Snapchat's now used for.
Yeah, no, but like I don't touch. I was when Snapchat was big, I was rubbish at using it because I don't take photographs well. I can't take like good photo. Like, if someone takes a candid photo of me, that's fine. If they take a posed photo of me, absolute write-off. I will guaranteed not look good on it. So it was never an app that I used, and I never did my story, and I didn't like filming and all the rest. So it's been kind of weird filming like TikToks and trying to get like the fucking angle right. And I'm still getting used to it, I suppose. But the first one I did was literally just a screen grab with a big country's one great thing playing over the top of it. And I think that had, like, you know, before I knew it, it had 300 comments. And like, again, it's something that I say to people who are campaigning for independence all the time. Why do people, like really, really passionate independence people, why do you waste time replying to someone who's obviously not someone that you're ever going to convince and is just there to waste your time? And that was actually the basis of one of my fucking TikToks as well. It's like, why are you arguing with the Winston Churchill avatar in the comments section? No one is ever going to, and you can apply it to any political thing ever. Like the people that get into really heated Twitter threads with like a Trump avatar, or like, you know, just like a Trump logo banner, or like a Blue Lives Matter or anything like that. It's why are you actually engaging with someone who's so obviously got an account there to just waste your time? You'd be better off actually going and having a genuine conversation with someone.
It goes back to the old adage, don't feed the trolls.
Yeah.
And there is a level when you do have to engage with the trolls, because you can't ignore them entirely, but it's, you know, don't waste your valuable energy trying to convince somebody who's determined their whole strategy is just to wear you out so they can then just steamroll over you. And that's a really big thing with pro-unionists. They just steamroll over you because you get exhausted. You can argue yourself blue in the face with them. It will never make a bit of difference. What you have to do is target people that are on the fence.
Yeah. And I think like one of the things that I'm hoping to do in the Discord is actually have more of a how to campaign kind of strategy discussion, because I was speaking to Alva Scala about it, and got a really good quote. Is like, look, if you've got 2 hours to cut a tree, spend the first hour sharpening the axe. And I think you need to actually prepare people to campaign, because the moment you get sucked into any heated debate online, you know, there's no point arguing with someone online for like 4 hours and then patting yourself on the back and going, oh, well, I did my bit of campaigning today. It doesn't work like that. And I think it is like, there's a lot of, and it comes with experience, but there's a lot of like going with your gut, like understanding and being able to detect when someone's just sea lining versus someone asking like genuine questions, how you engage with someone. And of course, like I'm looking forward to getting back out on like street stalls. I think that'll be good. And I think, again, independence, like back in 2014, I always say that like 2014 was really the first kind of like social media like dominant political campaign in the UK.
Yeah, it was.
Potentially a lot wider as well. But I can guarantee you there was a lot of political campaigners and experts that were watching 2014 very, very keenly. And you can see how, like, maybe not all of the tactics have been deployed kind of like elsewhere, but they were definitely built and expanded upon for things like Brexit, for like the Trump campaign. Like, it was really, really heavily monitored. How do you like move groups of people and shuffle public opinion and all the rest of it? So I feel like independence definitely was kind of seen, and there's tactics that are already beginning to sort of emerge from, like, you know, the unionist side, and probably a wee bit from our side as well, but there needs to be, like, we need to be almost squeaky clean in how we kind of conduct ourselves. And I think that's half the challenge, of course. But yeah, lots to say on it.
Yes. I mean, I'd be shocked if you didn't, and your entire Tumblr persona in Scottish politics, and then more and more gradually it's gotten towards the other things. But I'm fully invested. I was devastated the first time we didn't get it. I mean, I remember I was lying in bed and I was ill, like actually ill feeling when I realised we weren't going to get it. And I think Mothman actually had to take the day off work because I was just not worth a button. I was just devastated.
Yeah.
Um, and it was really trying to explain to people like over here at least they're going, but yeah, like you're not, it was that the thing I got from a lot of people online at least was, well, there's always next time, and it's all
Mm.
when's that going to be, because we had to fight so hard to get the first one.
Yeah. I mean,
So
like,
actually getting the second date now to go and get approval and everything else is
yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
It's such a big hopeful thing, and I know there are maybe some people in the chat who maybe aren't decided, and maybe they're thinking, well, that'd be a shame. I don't like, maybe if you are from England, you think I don't really want the UK to break up. Um, yeah, I mean,
I've,
I
I've,
suppose, but I
I,
wouldn't. I'd be
yeah.
surprised if you didn't understand where we're coming from because you are part of our community. Um, and it's because one message I will say, I wanted to talk about this actually, but one message I got this week was, I didn't realize you hate English people. I don't. I hate
Oh,
the English government, and I
that's
hate what
a.
they do to us. I hate what they do to the English people. I hate what they're doing to Wales, and I hate what they're doing to Ireland. So it's not about you personally. It's about the people currently in elected power.
I
So
think a,
it's
I think a lot
yeah.
of people don't get that. I mean, I think it's because a lot of the time the British media do really portray it as this absolute visceral hatred of all things English. I
Yeah,
mean, there's
yeah.
there's there's plenty of English people that support independence. There's plenty of English people that have specifically moved to Scotland to support independence. So
Most of the north of England is going, can we come?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
can we come with you? And it's just like, come on.
yeah. And I think like it's one of the things, and there's particular types of like or groups in England that kind of get on my nerves a wee bit when it comes to like one of the messages I get quite a lot on Tumblr is like, oh, I can't wait to move to Scotland after you get independence. And like I kind of get where that's coming from. That's like
Mm-hmm.
oh, I would love to be able to move up there. And at the same time I'm like, why
But
don't
not
you
put any of the
why
work in.
why don't you come and help? Like why
Yeah.
you're not you're just waiting to see how it turns out. Like come and put the graft in and get us over the line.
It was actually
Um
really funny because Mothman made a comment when it was announced this week. Because we've been talking about wanting to go back home to Scotland for quite a while now.
mm,
And his response was, well, we need to get there so we can help.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that was his response. Was like, we need to get there so we can help and we can start doing like campaigning and everything else. And that was, it'd be very, very easy for someone from outside of the country to just go, yeah, I want to move there when it's independent and better. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, no, if you want something good, you have to be part of what makes it.
Yeah. And
And that it was quite touching for me that he was absolutely gung ho for, yeah, let's sell the house, let's go, let's do the
oh
thing.
yeah, let's
And
go. Nah, I mean I think one of the important things again that like I think I can see where the Yes campaign, like the Yes campaign was really, really good in 2014. I think a lot of people are
was
really determined to frame it as uber divisive, but like if families were really like splitting in two and never talking again after, there was definitely like deeper issues with the family dynamic than
yeah, yeah.
sure like than politics. But I think one of the things that's really important, and I like I get messages about this before, and it's not so much about the portrayal of Scotland historically; it's more the portrayal of Scotland as it is just now. Now I do think that Scotland and England are moving in two very different directions, and I do think that they're two quite different countries from the approaches of the governments. But I think a lot of people sometimes, particularly passionate independence campaigners, like they sometimes run into the issue where their vision for an independent Scotland actually kind of clouds what current Scotland's like, um,
Yeah.
and how it particularly affects like minority groups in Scotland at the moment as well. So whether it's your people of colour or your LGBT community or disabled people, the abuse that they experience on a kind of like daily basis, the fights for their rights and all that, like the kind of, I think there is a problem where if you like you almost try and make it out to be more of a wonderful utopian society than it actually is.
Yeah.
Like what I think from my perspective is that like Scottish independence actually allows us to tackle a lot of these problems a bit more aggressively. We'll be able to like have all the kind of economic and foreign policy levers at our disposal, things around like immigration and everything that would
Yeah.
actually allow us to change like the kind of culture towards different things. And of course, being able to, better fund the NHS and all this kind of stuff kind of comes into that. And being able to say, well, actually, we want to be a different and better country than we currently are. But I do see why maybe some independent supporters might come to this slightly more heavy-handed than others. And it's not a criticism of like the movement or anything like that, but it might be that we might, like, some people might need to reframe how they actually speak about independence, because for some people, like, what I imagine the trans community in Scotland are like is like probably would be quite anxious about what happens if we get independent and then suddenly we go off the rails in regards to trans rights. Now I don't think we would, but I think that would be definitely a cause for concern. It would be obviously the UK, there's widespread kind of transphobia, and that's becoming more of a thing. It's like it's strange when Americans are calling it like Turf Island, because
Yeah,
like
that's
they
when it was bad.
like they see it as more toxic and bad than maybe what they're experiencing locally in the US. But I think we need to be able to make the case that
There is no point in pretending that we're a utopia,
yeah,
because
no.
that illusion will shatter the second you look at it. And I have a friend, Amy Dean Hoff, who's a fellow American who taught in Scotland, worked in Scotland, writes novels about Scottish books and everything else. And they ended up being deported because of Westminster's new the immigration policies that were put into place.
Was that the
And
salary rules that they brought in?
yeah, the salary rules
Yeah.
didn't matter that they had their own business, they owned their own house, they had family and friends, they'd been there for I think it was 15 years.
Jesus.
And they got deported to France. They don't live in France. They've never lived in France, but they got deported to France, and they had to go all the way back over here. Eventually, them and their partner ended up living in I think they're now in Spain, but they still can't come into the UK because they've been deported. And they got really angry because people kept saying, "Oh well, the UK and Scotland would never do that," and it's
Yeah.
you need the guarantee. You need to know that Scottish immigration would be handled differently, because
Yeah.
the current situation is diabolical. It is actually evil. The things that Westminster is currently trying to do over immigration and refugee crisis as well. And we would need to not to say, well, Scotland would be perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
No, no. You have to put the foundation in to promise people, actually, this is something we will tackle, and this is something that we will be fair about, and it will be, it's very frustrating to see people saying, "Oh well, it's a utopia. This would never happen in Scotland."
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they also dealt with was they actually dealt with racism because they were American, and it was well, they actually got the whole "you're taking our job" thing, and it was surreal. But it was because they were teaching Scottish literature at a Scottish university, but they were American.
Yeah.
So it was the whole, well, you're taking somebody's job. Well, this, Dean worked, that it was their passion for a very long time. Their partner is deeply involved in like preservation of Scottish culture and everything else. It wasn't just somebody coming along and
winging it.
It was someone who's deeply, deeply invested in Scottish culture and Scottish independence.
And you
still got
sometimes
the whole,
yeah, and like, to be honest, I sometimes, and like obviously this can be a very, very fine line, but sometimes you need that outside perspective to actually come and preserve the culture of the country. Like, it's almost like I don't think that it should just be Scottish people like really interested in Scottish history and like maintaining it. Like, I feel like you need that kind of outside perspective sometimes as well. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of stuff that needs to be addressed, and like, to be honest, the conversations has moved on. I would say, like, I'd say the stuff that I'm talking about there very much was some undecided voters kind of issues with the Yes campaign, and like key individuals that were maybe just a little bit too passionate for their liking. Some people do like that kind of visionary, oh, here's all we could do. Some people prefer a slightly more pragmatic approach, and I think, like, I don't think it's lying to people or trying to like mislead people, but I think also knowing who you're speaking to is really
Yeah.
important. It's something that is like I always kind of said if you're speaking to someone who's currently a soldier in the British Army about Scottish independence, right? Your approach to them will be completely different to like another person who has a completely different set of priorities. Just
Yeah.
whoever, farmers or whatever it is. Like, you wouldn't start talking about, like, at least unless they were super passionate about it themselves and you found that out, you wouldn't start immediately going in pretty hard on on like nuclear deterrence and removing nuclear
Hmm.
missiles to the farmers, because that's going to be like, wait a wee second. It's the same with yeah, as Sky's mentioned, yeah, we at the moment the British Army Twitter account is has been taken over and hacked by a group of crypto NFT people, and I don't think I support either side. I'm just sitting there going, y'all suck.
It's, yeah, it's one of those ones where you're just kind of like the popcorn's out and you're just waiting to see what happens next. But
Yeah.
there's no good outcome for this. Nobody deserved to win in that situation.
Yeah, so
Um,
all I know is that someone's getting sacked for cybersecurity issues.
yeah,
Like, well, it'll be like their password was like Waterloo or like Churchill or
password one
something
two
like that.
three.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that's currently happening. But anyway, I think like back to the tailoring your discussion for a specific person. I think that's the kind of key thing, and it is
Yeah.
something that I will be talking about a lot more on Discord. There's lots of like specific tactics that I don't really want to shout out into the ether or write down on social media, because of course the moment they kind of know your playbook, folk are able to adapt. So I think it's not like tips and tricks on how to mislead people. It's more like how to actually start campaigning, because a lot of people maybe haven't ever went canvassing before. It's not maybe a
Hmm.
normal thing that people do. Another one is like, how do you actually run a street stall? How do you go along and say, I would like to be part of this? How do you then talk to people? And also making sure that you don't get like super defensive, because I think that's one of the things that I'm really going to be like leading in is that you absolutely, whenever you're campaigning and you're representing the campaign, you cannot start a fucking bun fight in the street or whatever it is. It does not look good. It will never look good. Um, don't like always engage politely. It's like
Yeah.
literally the only thing that you can do is like just engage politely, and then there will be a point where you'll need to make a judgment call of whether that person is worth speaking to and continuing to speak to. If they start to get overly aggressive, that's fine. I'm not going to speak to you, because there's
Just
no point.
disengage. That's it.
Just
If someone's
yeah,
getting aggro at you, you just disengage. You just say thanks for your time and walk away,
yeah,
or you let them walk away. There's no point arguing back with them because those people are not your target audience. They're not ever going to be swayed. So there's
yeah,
no point burning yourself out on them.
yeah.
And
It's
do you know, as Alice Grant says, clearly the best method to canvass is to shout angrily at pensioners. Do not.
well, that's it's funny. Funny you mentioned that, Aurascala. That's exactly what Labour did in the kind of final weeks before the 2014 referendum. They went and knocked on all the doors of the pensioners, saying that they'd lose their pension in the event of independence. So they just went around and threatened a bunch of pensioners for no reason. Because I think another thing that people kind of forget, we don't need to get into individual talking points on independence here, but like um, lots of things were guaranteed by the UK Treasury. If Scottish citizens paid their pension into the UK Treasury, they are due that payout. It's why the
Yes.
UK Treasury pays out pensions in France and Spain and everywhere else, because you've paid into it. It's not a case of you leave and suddenly you don't get the pension that you've paid into anymore. Same with, you've paid national insurance, you've done all that. There's tons. We can just fucking go on about this forever. But
We could.
we'll deal with all of those like later. But I think the way that campaigning's changed is gonna shift. everything's very online now, to the point where I think there's now really well established like Twitter bubbles, to the point where you're probably just going to see people arguing underneath like a Herald article. That's no convincing anyone, and it's definitely no convincing any undecided voters. This will be won by kind of being out and about, and like, I know that there will be people who maybe don't feel like they can walk loads and go and do canvassing. They might be able to get along to a street stall that's a bit more stationary and accessible. And like, I hope what I'm saying doesn't come across as like digital campaigning's like gone. That is absolutely not the case. It's more the type of digital campaigning's changed, and we kind of need to adapt to that, because if we don't, then it's going to kind of fall on its arse. You can't waste time arguing with unionist pages or anything like that. As Azuri's saying there, it has evolved. Digital campaigning's evolved massively over the past 5 years, let alone like the 9 years it'll be by the time that we're voting. And yeah, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But I'll still be making all of my TikToks because they're great, and you should all follow me on TikTok because I'm great. More hot independence takes there. The one that I just posted, actually, I was messing around with Premiere Pro before I called Joy at 7:30, and one of the things I was doing, Joy, was there was a video of a woman in front of the Better Together No Thanks banners. And she was being interviewed for the campaign. She was obviously quite passionate about staying in the union, and she was like, they, as in the independent supporters, are very pessimistic about whether Labour will win the next election. They think that the England will want to leave the EU, or want to withdraw from the EU. They think that UKIP will be on the rise, and they think that Boris Johnson will become Prime Minister. And I don't think any of that will happen. And I was just like, you serious?
Yeah.
It's pain. I do post TikToks on Tumblr as well, but like, you know, you should follow me on TikTok if you've got it. Blind Panda Bear.
If only for the thirst traps of you getting your beard shaved.
It's funny because I did do one video and I said like, oh, I need a bit of a shave, and I feel like everyone in the comments interpreted that as I'm going to clean shave, which you know, I think that would actually make me look below voting age. I end up looking about 12 if I was clean shaven. It wouldn't be to anyone's excitement. Nah, it would not look good. It scares the thought of me clean shaven, actually. I don't think I could even pull off a mustache. I need to. The beard's attached to me forever now.
And it's a good look. It's a good look. I'm not going to argue with that. You've got the young Ewan McGregor thing going on, which is nobody's going to complain about that, I don't think. So
long as I progress to the old Ewan McGregor, I think I'll be happy, because like,
you'll be fine.
Yeah. In that case, I'll be fine. But it's funny though, because I've been I haven't really done much filming of TikToks in my Jesus Christ, Mothman. Thank you very much for gifting 10 subs to Lake Mojave, Kai Rectangle, Merriman Leon, oh god, they're all truncated. THL, Katrina, Amethyst42, Ampulus5302, Fallen to Life, Inkwat, D's Pig Slippers, and Somewhat Charred. Thanks very much, Mossman. But no, I think, sorry, just back to the thing. I've been filming all the TikToks when I've been going out on walks. I've been going out on tons of walks, Joy, every morning. Like, that's been my thing now. So it's like, I wake up dead early and I go for a big walk around one of the parks near me. And that's where I've been filming the TikToks. I feel like people must think I live like super rurally or whatever. But I've been doing that. I've been listening to a bunch of stuff there, and I've also been listening to Casey Davis on TikTok too. Yeah. Because so here for everyone who doesn't know, I have been on a kind of steady journey that Joy's been helping me with, kind of miraculously. And I think it kind of started with me clocking the fact that ADHD accessible resources, I was finding them a lot easier to read than some of the other resources, and that's when you kind of go, huh. And I think from then, I've been obviously speaking to Joy a fair bit off of the podcast. We do talk outside the podcast as well. And one of the things that Joy recommended was Casey Davis's book. And
How to Keep House When You're Drowning.
yeah, and oh my god, that has changed
It's
changed my like this whole week. My fucking office has never been tidier. It's wonderful. And it's been so good. And I suppose, like, how did you find Casey Davis? Was it an off chance thing, or?
No, I have a ADHD therapist, and she's very, very genned up and all, like, everything that's current and new, because she's very much, my therapist is very much, a lot of the stuff that's there is not actually accessible, or it's aimed at children, because that's the main battles I run into with me, because if you look up, like, how to focus with ADHD or how to do this, 90% of the time the stuff that you'll get is aimed at, as a parent of a child with ADHD, this is how you can enable them. And I'm going, well, how do I enable me? What do you like? So that was a major issue. And my therapist loves Casey Davis. She actually has a TikTok for following her. And then she let me know that the How to Keep House While Drowning book was a thing. And she's going, I think you'll like it. And you can actually go on to Casey Davis's website, which is called strugglecare.com. And I really appreciate that, because the name really highlights the fact that self-care is difficult. Because self-care is one of those things that's become kind of like synonymous with Instagram reels of people doing facials and like all this really kind of nice aesthetic things. And sometimes self-care is literally hauling yourself up at 3 a.m. to do laundry because you've not done laundry in about a week. Like that's an act of self-care. But no one, when you look at certain things online, self-care tends to be about aesthetically pleasing things, or a spa or something else. And you're going, no, self-care is caring for the self at a fundamental level. It's not just, mindfulness helps, but mindfulness is not good if it's not helping you to do the dishes, feed yourself, all those things. So I was made aware of Casey Davis through my therapist, who was also had a mind-blown moment. This person who is trained for it, when she was reading Casey Davis' thing, was going, oh, yeah, I've been using harmful, toxic methods to motivate my ADHD because that's what the current curriculum is for treatment. So it was really mind-opening for both of us. And then she gave me the book, and I read it, and my perspective on life was completely changed. I've seen some of the TikToks, but obviously I don't have a TikTok, so I just see them from the outside.
Oh, just you wait, Joy. We'll get you on TikTok. we're gonna see like crucifix nail nipples in 15-second chunks.
It's already on there on a bunch.
Oh God!
It pisses the life out of me, because I've had it since they had the TikToks migration to Tumblr. I've had people saying to me, "Oh, you're from that TikTok," and I'm going, "No, I'm from Tumblr. You stole that." Like that was like and people, they make money off of it, because TikTok, and it's the same with like Instagram. If you make reels, you'll get money for doing for making content. And I'm going, right, great. People get to make content off of reading popular Tumblr posts. They get to make money off it. And meanwhile, it's Tumblr's just kind of falling apart, and it's Tumblr itself was struggling to get funding for a while. But it's really interesting when TikTok people, but it's a bunch of people that have never really been on Tumblr. They come on to Tumblr. It's like, oh yeah, you're from that TikTok post. And I'm going, I think you mean they're from my Tumblr post. Like, yeah. But yeah, Casey Davis, I mean, TikTok is the ideal platform for her. She doesn't really use her Instagram as much, but she uses TikTok, and I think she likes the fast pace of it.
She also has a YouTube channel, actually. It's more. I think she does more, slightly longer, like 7-minute videos. And like, to be honest, it's one of the things that I found quite exciting. I've quite enjoyed reading her book. I found her book really quite interesting, because I'll just get lost in it, and I'll read I'll read all of it. But I quite like reading, and I like the way that she writes, because it's very kind of accessible. Whereas her TikTok's great because it is that kind of digestible bit. I just like sometimes seeing things written down. I think one of the things that I've kind of gotten the most out of so far, at least, I would say this week's definitely been more concentrating on how she actually uses this struggle care kind of system, because Like that's about kind of keeping your house like tidy, but you can apply it to like a bunch of other things like
Mm-hmm.
work, like being creative. And I've not had a massive chance to do that just yet, but it is something that I'm kind of hoping to do soon. But like the kind of one of the things that I've really liked about her is how she kind of reframes certain things,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think the point that you were saying there about how like Instagrammable houses and like
Yeah.
is very aesthetic, and it's like for so many people though like these kind of she doesn't call them like cleaning or chores or anything, she calls them self-care tasks, and it's like they are never ending. You will always need to cook yourself food, there will always be dishes, there'll always be rubbish to pick up, there will always be laundry to do,
Yeah.
and it's about like making them fit into your life in a way that's quite handy, because like there's a bunch of things that she's done that's quite useful, I've found anyway. Like so there's things of like how to kind of, she calls it resetting a space rather than like tidying a room, and one of she's got like five like basically there's only ever five things in any given room. There's rubbish to pick up, there's dishes to be put away, there's laundry to pick up, there's things that are in their place, and there's things that need to be returned to a place, and there's things that don't have a place and either need to be given a place or need to
Mm-hmm.
be thrown out. And it's quite nice to actually walk into a room with that frame of mind. And like, because one of the things I think, and I think I kind of see it with my ADHD, where like a lot of our chats, Joy, we go off on tangents.
We
So
do.
like
Mm-hmm.
we'll start out on one task with a plan, and then all of a sudden, um, let's say you're picking up rubbish around the house, and you trip over some laundry. So you immediately like you almost forget that you were purely going out to pick up all the rubbish in the house. You're now doing the laundry, and now you've walked past the dish, and like you actually feel like you never get anything done because there's never a task that actually gets properly ticked off. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I've found anyway. So like the books really helped. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
my house looks amazing now.
it's amazing when you get into it though, and you find something that
Mm,
actually works for you. Because I also do I really liked organizing solutions for people with ADHD by Susan Plinsky.
mm,
Um, she is a interior organizer, but she changed her outlook on how to organize because her daughter was diagnosed with ADHD, and no matter what
mm,
she was doing, her daughter could not adhere to it. So then she figured out, oh, this doesn't work for her. And that was one of our first revolutionary moments where it was, well, why aren't the clothes going into the laundry basket? Well, because there's a lid on it. People with ADHD, if there's one more step in the way of doing something, even if it's something like a lid, it can stop you from doing the thing because it's one more task that your brain cannot process. So the first thing we did was we took all the lids off the laundry basket, and it was like great, yeah, fantastic. Now the stuff's actually going in there. But then when I was reading um, Casey Davies, I realised, well, we're not really still doing laundry efficiently because everything gets shoved in there, but we forget about it because it's all in one huge thing and we don't know, what we're running out of and what needs to be done. So I actually bought like 5 individual smaller baskets and I lined them up on top of our dresser and we just sort the laundry as we're taking off.
mm.
So then I can look at that really quick and go, all right, we're almost out, like the t-shirts are almost full. I should go and do that right now. Um, and that's been revolutionary for us because it's a case of you can literally see at a glance, oh, this smaller basket is actually getting to the point where it's time to do the weekly wash. Whereas with the large, huge basket we had before, stuff just vanished into the void. And then all
Yeah,
of a sudden you'd be like, oh, I don't have any shirts left.
I
I don't
think.
have any underwear. Where is everything? And then it was a case of like, oh, it's in the giant void that needs to be
Mm,
sorted. And sorting's another task. Like that was, I don't struggle with it, but Mothman does. And so it became a thing where I'm going, right, well, we'll just pre-sort it. Everything gets
mm,
sorted as it gets taken off.
yeah.
I literally have um, a basket for towels. I have a basket for kitchen stuff. I have a basket for underwear, t-shirts, jeans. Like I have them dotted all around the house. Um, but we always try to make sure that the clothes eventually go into their pre-sorted thing, and you can look at it and go, actually, I should go do that just now because it's starting to get a wee bit full. And we've not run out of clothes since doing that, and I'm like, that's amazing. Um, But that was taking something that I learned from one ADHD hack, and then implementing it into a better system that works specifically for us. Because that's the thing, everyone will have different needs. There's no one system that will work for everybody else. So it's that kind of finding what works for you and then running with it. If you
Yeah.
find taking the doors off your cabinets helps you put stuff away and it means you can see what you need to buy at the shops, do it.
Yeah.
You don't need to like because we had we took all of our stuff off. We took all the doors off our shelves. Doesn't look fantastic. Not gonna lie. It doesn't look as nice as some nice modern open shelves would look. But the point is, the kitchen is now functional for both of us. Um, Alternatively, we have friends who see it and they get extremely stressed because they can see everything. So those, if they are neurotypical or um, neurodivergent, they might need doors because otherwise they get overstimulated. But
Mm.
for us, it's a case of, well, if I can't see it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Where we
It's
both have that object blindness. If we can't see it, it does not exist. Um, and it's a problem I have with all my stuff. Like I have all my organization, all my work stuff in the cabinet behind me. The only reason I know stuff is in there is because I am constantly aware of it because I have to remind myself. Otherwise, I will forget.
yeah.
And ideally, I'd have a system where it's all out in the open, I can see it, but I don't have the space for that in this room. Um, but yeah, it's really interesting to read different things and see what works for people. And I think the Casey Davis method is also remarkably devoid of shame,
Yeah.
which is a big thing as well, because a big part of you get told a lot, even a lot of some therapists I've found with ADHD, they use the shame mechanism as a motivator.
Yeah.
And what they don't often tell you is that you can break your brain with that, which I found out in the end of 2020 when Fangs was coming out. I completely destroyed my brain because I was using guilt and panic as a motivator.
Yeah.
And it's a big problem because a lot of that's how a lot of us get stuff done is we see the deadline and we use the pressure of the deadline to get stuff done. And it can be really harmful. It can be really, really harmful if you're constantly using stress as a motivator. And I wish more people talked about it. And the only person I've really seen tackling it has been Casey Davis, where she says you need to remove shame from the equation of how you care for yourself. You cannot go into a situation saying, if I was a proper adult, I'd be able to do this. You are a proper adult. You're an adult with a disability. Give
Yeah.
yourself the accommodation, give yourself the kindness that you need. Um, and it's to me it was a big revolution because it was just removing that whole I'm not good enough mindset. Like I still have it because it's a lifetime of if you just tried harder you'd be wonderful. um but I found having a fellow adult that was kind of like, oh yeah, I struggle with this too and I'm a professional and I'm a therapist for this, it was like,
Mm.
oh okay, because it's very very kind of like all the stuff is framed around getting yourself organized. Buy a planner, do this, make sure you try really hard to
Oh
do the
fuck.
thing.
That's
And
it's
it
actually
doesn't work for me.
it's one thing that I'm pretty sure whenever and I kind of see it. I've seen it on Instagram, I've seen it on Facebook, and I've seen it in quite a lot of like self-helpy type things.
Yeah.
Um, but the how to get organized, and it's like we've given you the toolkit to create your custom planner. I don't fill out calendars. That's I
No.
I don't fill out calendars. I don't journal. I don't do anything like. I mean, journaling is probably a bit different than actually being organized. But I can't ever get around the whole like mapping out all of my tasks on a calendar. I will never write do the dishes in a calendar. It's not happening. I'll never get it. And I think reading
Yeah.
Casey Davis's stuff was the first time it was like, yeah, that's because it probably doesn't work for you. And yeah, you
I'm
can
gonna
chuck
highlight
that out.
my star method, my sticker method that I did, and I think it's on Tumblr still, but it was I have a schedule for things. This is my writing journal, so it's a little bit different. But for every 500 words I write, I get a star.
So many
Um,
stars.
but those are days when I'm having a good day. That's when I might be fixated on a project. Um, that's slightly more manageable for me. And then there's days where it looks like that. But I do that system for chores around the house. I do something I put up an Excel sheet and I put in like weekly tasks or daily tasks. And at the end, it's something I don't have to physically rewrite every day. It's something I don't have to do input. I can just print off 50 of these sheets and stick them on the fridge. And every time I complete it, you get a sticker. And it sounds really juvenile, it sounds like something that a child would be doing, but there's a reason we train children with that. Is because you need to externalize the reward process so that they get visual feedback. And the thing is, with neurodivergent brains, we don't get the same sort of reward. Our reward system is broken, and we don't get the same dopamine hit that other people get from completing tasks. Like, I never understood this until a couple of years ago. Neurotypical people's brains give them dopamine for completing tasks. And it feels like a betrayal to know that these people are getting happy chemicals for doing the dishes. It feels like a betrayal to know that, oh yeah, they vacuumed, so they're getting happy chemicals. And meanwhile, my brain is starving to death in its own misery because my reward system doesn't work. So you need to give yourself the reward. You need to actually do the whole, well, actually, I do deserve a thing because I did do this, and it is hard. Just because other people are able to do it, they say, well, I did it and I didn't get a reward. You did. Your brain chemicals gave you the reward. And acting as if we don't deserve acknowledgement for doing something is shitty. It's really shitty. Like, I really hate the mentality of, well, I do all that and I don't get rewards. You do. Your brain literally gives you dopamine. Mine's doesn't. So it's my form of dopamine is stickers and stars and
loads of stickers.
Loads of stickers, and I use it for everything. I use it for my writing. I use it for keeping track of the house. I use it for if I remember to send something on a calendar, I will actually put the stickers on the calendar so that I actually get a sense of passing of time, because I also suffer from severe time blindness. Like, I will blink and all of a sudden it's a new month and I'm like, oh, I was completely unaware that I let weeks pass me by. Whereas if I use the sticker method, or if I cross off in the calendar, I'm actually better aware at the passage of time. But that's what works for me. But I had to learn to do this. It wasn't something that came naturally to me. Yeah. And we sometimes will fall out of using the sticker method for the house and the chores. Like, we've not been using it for a couple of months, and the house has suffered because of it. And it's one small thing can derail you. And that derailment can feel like failure, and it can feel as if, oh, why bother, because it doesn't work for me. It does work, but you need to be prepared for the fact that if you do get derailed, it'll probably fall apart for you a bit, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't negate the progress you made while you were using it. You just need to get yourself back on track and start using it again.
And you have a system that you can kind of get back onto a wee bit easier.
Yeah.
So I just want to pick up on a comment from Lovely Scientist. Shame and guilt's been part of my life for 60 years. Removing it's been a work of 20 years. The relief of getting free of it and the annoyance of it still being here. Whoosh. Thank God for the people like Casey Davis, saved my life, and all the people talking about their diagnoses and what's worked for them. I think that's one of the good things, because I think shame's interesting, and just kind of touching on some of the points you were making there. But the one of the things that Casey Davis says is, like, all of these kind of tasks are also morally neutral. Like, yes. you're not a bad person because you've not done your dishes in a couple of days. It just is a task that you will need to pick up to look after yourself. It's not something that indicates that you're terrible or a failure or a bad adult or whatever it is. Having tasks being more morally neutral actually makes them less overwhelming, because you're no longer piling on the guilt and shame of having not done these tasks. You're saying, okay, I've maybe let it slip a little bit, but it doesn't reflect on me. I've just been busy, and now I can go and do them and get back to it.
Mm-hmm. You had other things happening. That's the thing. You had other things happening that took your attention away. It could be stress from work. It could be stress from your kids, stress from just life in general. And the thing is, other people are allowed to fall apart and not feel this overwhelming guilt and feelings of failure. It's just our brains are being cunts to us, basically. And you need to remind yourself, like, I almost treat it like a toddler. It's a toddler that's not had a snack for a while. It's not had a nap. And when my brain starts throwing a tantrum, I can, inside my head, it can feel really patronizing at first. But the thing I do is, what do we need? Do we need food? Do we need sleep? Do we need water? And the answer is usually all three of those things. And I make sure that it's a thing where I'm going, if this was anybody else, I would be telling them to take care of themselves. Whereas because it's me, I'm going, actually, you deserve to suffer and persevere with this.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to break that habit. And I've been getting better at it over the last year. Like I've literally spent I spent 2021 trying to fix my mental health because it was in the gutter, and I put a lot of effort into, no, actually, like, I do deserve kindness, I do deserve understanding, and to state what my needs are. And it was really uncomfortable. It was really uncomfortable to say, actually, I need help with this. Because you are made to feel like a failure by some people, because to them it's like, oh, it's natural, it's instinctual. But you also have to consider the fact that their brains, they have a different neurotype. It works differently. And I think the more people that understand that, I think the better everyone will be. But I also think there has to be, like Casey Davis, like with the morally neutral task, it is treated like a moral failing if you are not good at certain things. And it's usually from people that have their own issues. They've got perfectionist issues, or they were raised in that way themselves, whereas you're only a good person if you take care of your family 100%. You're always self-sacrificing.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy either. I think we do need to get the idea that certain tasks are morally neutral. Feeding yourself is morally neutral. Taking care of yourself is morally neutral. Taking a shower is morally neutral. Like it's removing the puritanical idea of perfectionism from it. And we don't realize how much damage that has done on a societal level until you actually start to deconstruct it. And, for me, it was at a moment where I'm sitting with my therapist and I'm going, why do I feel this way? Why do I have so much internalized shame over these things? And it's basically getting shouted at as a kid. It's, why don't you pick up after yourself? Why can't you remember dates? Why can't you remember to send that birthday card? What is wrong with you? Why don't you care about people? I do care about people. I just can't remember things. My functioning memory doesn't work because I have a learning disability, and it was never treated as that. It was treated as a character flaw. And there's a lot of resentment that comes with that when you actually start to realize, oh, I was just being picked on because I wasn't being allowed to have accommodations for what I needed. But it's people don't understand what it is. They hear ADHD and they think, oh, 7-year-old boy can't sit still. Shiny squirrel disease. And, it's funny for me because I am a very, look shiny person. But it's not because I don't care about things. It's literally just because my brain is looking for things that will give it feedback that is pleasant. Because my brain doesn't do that by itself. Sorry, I keep telling everyone I'm a corvid now. Yeah, I am a magpie. I will go towards the shiny thing because it gives me happiness. I will look at the thing that makes me happy rather than the thing that doesn't. Because my brain is already functioning at a lower level of happiness because my dopamine receptors don't work. And it's amazing the number of therapists who don't actually explain that to their patients. They just give them medication and tell them, off you go. And you need to actually understand what it is and start to unpack it and actually make, mental changes to the way that you think about yourself. There's too many people that think, oh, medication will fix me. Medication is not, it's great for everyone that can have it. I fully recommend if you can be medicated, you should, because this is hell. Don't do this to yourself unless you can avoid it. But you also need to do the work to detangle what is going through your head, because otherwise you'll just keep falling back into the same pattern and you'll never get anywhere. You'll just keep falling into the same kind of like, oh yeah, I'm great, everything's great, everything's wonderful, and then you have a slight dip in the road and you fall flat on your face and then you don't do it again. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I think Casey Davis is one of the only people I've actually seen who actually acknowledges it's hard. That's why she calls her website Struggle Care. Because it is a struggle. And it's not all pretty aesthetics and like, oh yeah, self-care, I'm doing my nails. Like, maybe that is part of your self-care, but self-care can also mean cleaning your bathroom because you've not done it in a month. It doesn't have to be pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's like, again, there's so many good touch points out of Casey Davis's book. I feel like I could talk about all of them. But one of the things is how, like, traditional forms of self-care sometimes aren't really self-care. Like people
Yeah.
say like going and getting your hair cut. Like for some people that's like, you know, it's quite nice going in, you get pampered, you get your hair washed, you get like whatever. You know, like I was counting my trip to the barbers as like my like kind of, I always joked when I walked in, I said, oh look, it's my kind of one day of self-care a month.
Hmm.
But it was actually like kind of exhausting. Like and
Yeah.
like sometimes what you've traditionally thought as being your self-care tasks are actually the things that kind of take the wind out your sails a little bit, because you've like, maybe it's because you've like totally scheduled them in, and because it's a planned thing you've got to
Hmm.
remember, and all the rest, that like it's maybe not as kind of self-caring as the other thing,
Yeah,
other things
and
that you do.
it's a big thing as well with a lot of there's a lot of lateral ableism that comes from
Mm.
that. It's like the whole, well, self care means taking care of yourself. It means making, like, I saw on, was it Twitter? It was either Twitter or Tumblr this week, and it was, you're not taking care of yourself if you're not bathing regularly or you're not taking a shower every day. And I would agree to that to a certain point, because you do start to feel grotty and unsanitary and everything else.
Mm.
But I have a condition called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which means if I shower and the water's too hot, I will faint. Up until very recently, I going for a shower would mean that would be the only task I could do that day.
Mm.
And sometimes you don't want to do that. Sometimes you have other things you want to do. So if my choice, on bad days when my heart is not pumping blood what it should be, if I have a choice between writing that day or taking a shower, sometimes I want to write, and that's better
Mm.
for my mental health than going for the shower. Um, you can argue it's gross, but that's the reality of some disabled people. It's unless you have help, you cannot always do the self care things that everyone says to you. Well, if you're not doing that, you're clearly neglecting yourself. I would say that sometimes, it's for me, if I'm not doing fun things, I'm neglecting myself as well. And it's finding what works for you, and also kind of the um uh, Death Musket, you have that shit too. Yeah, if you're talking about pot, it's more common than people think it is. But it's really like, the whole like, oh yeah, self care is a nice hot bath. I will literally syncope. I will faint if I do that. And it's like I would love to, but it sounds wonderful. But my blood does not stay in my torso. It sinks to my legs because my
Mm.
veins are squishy. And it's really bad because you get all the self care tips, and I'm going, well, if I do that, I will literally make myself sicker. So it feels like you're failing at self care because you cannot do the things that are typically ascribed to self care.
Mm.
And whereas for some disabled people, self care can literally be you're taking a wet wipe and you're just getting yourself as clean as you can until you are
That's
able to do something else.
see, and the
And that
thing,
should be a valid form of self care.
yeah, I mean, one of the things that Casey Davis specifically said that on was how, like, obviously when she had her, I think it was her second kid, like
Mm-hmm.
she had her second kid, and it was like suddenly your actual normal daily schedule gets chucked out the window, because instead of like doing all of the things that you would normally do when you wake up, like I'm one of those folk. The moment I wake up, I need to go and brush my teeth. It is the first thing I do in the morning. I can't not like brush my teeth. I don't know why. I have like a thing that's just like I need to. And then like, but if you can't do that, like say some people go to the shower first thing in the morning, and they might regularly do that, it might be a life change like having a kid, and suddenly
Mm-hmm.
your schedule's knocked off completely. And how she got around it was like she created hygiene kits that she just had in different rooms, and it was like, remember to use like a wet wipe on your pits, that kind of thing. Sometimes that's just what you need to do. And again, it's like lots of these things are morally neutral, so it's not something that, it's not failing if you aren't able to do it every so often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
But
I mean,
yeah, there needs to be more consideration towards people with physical limitations, and
mhm.
also life changes. Like a child's a huge thing. It's also a visceral bodily experience that you do
Yeah,
not bounce back from. There's so much pressure to lose weight after a child. Fuck that. You are
no,
recovering from a visceral experience that is actually quite dangerous. Like we like to pretend it's not anymore, but it still is. and it should be the focus on self-care, not immediately going to the gym to lose weight. Like stuff like that really pisses me off, because it's like, oh yeah, well, if you're not self-caring after doing this, like having a kid, sometimes all you can do is feed yourself and feed
Yeah.
them. Keeping them alive is now your full-time job, and yet often we are working, taking care of ourselves, taking care of other children, and you're going, this is not how it's supposed to be. And a huge part of that is that the nuclear family, I don't think it's sustainable. It's a very new model of how we live, and it's not sustainable because we're falling apart under it.
It's funny. It's funny with well, I like how we can very quickly go into our conversation on capitalism again, Joy. But it's like that. Then you
It
like.
is unavoidable, the fact that it is a scourge in humanity.
But yeah,
Like,
as the nuclear family was designed around the fact that one income could support the entire family,
yeah,
and now that's simply not the case whatsoever. Um, and like I think the issue, like one of the things that Casey Davis also touches on is like that mental load, and how like traditionally it's naturally like, and to be honest, I have learned a lot about that, and Jessica also sent me a really good comic on it that I can't remember who did it, but it was a really good one about just like the actual mental load and expectations that are like divided up between the genders, where like it's the woman's normally seen as like the project manager of home tasks,
yeah,
and everything is therefore delegated. So like the guy kind of naturally saying, "Oh, why didn't you ask me for help?" It's like, I shouldn't have needed to have asked you for
yeah.
help. This is your house as well. Why didn't you do that? So I think that's like, yeah, it's definitely made me
Yeah.
up my game. I've been a better person in this house. But again, it's like it's just that kind of perspective. And like I would go through bouts of being like really, really intensely, and to be honest, it might be an ADHD thing as well. But like I can go on like massive, like in the morning sometimes Jessica could walk down and I would have like completely sorted out the kitchen. Kitchen would be spotless. And it just would have been like I had that burst of energy at that morning, and I used it. But making sure that that's actually more of a regular thing. But I'd being organised as well. And like I think, so I keep on feeling like, oh, and she also has this great bit. She also has this great bit. But one of the most important distinctions I've taken from the book so far is the difference between motivation and task initiation. That
Yes.
that was a like, honestly, I think my head kind of like fucking exploded when I read
You
that, because it's
messaged me
like,
right after it, and I was like,
yeah,
yeah.
I was like, holy fucking shit. And so for those of you who don't know that concept, like you can be a very, very motivated person, and I would like to think I am. I'm very keen on doing lots of different things. Oh, and that reminds me, there's like a whole bunch of other stuff that's really quite interesting to talk about from a multi potentialite perspective, but we can talk about that later. That could be its own stream. But this thing was about like motivation versus task initiation. So you can be super duper motivated to do lots of different things, but people always see like lack of motivation as being lazy, whereas it's not, because you can be hyper motivated to do lots of different things and just struggle with actually getting things underway. And I get it quite often creatively. Like I struggle to actually like start, and a lot of the time I tend to start and then I tend to edit the very little amount that I've done to the point where I never actually push on and finish the fucking first draft before editing. And I do need to try and learn to just start pour everything out my head and then edit it down. Because I write one sentence and I go, nah, that wouldn't read very well, and then I go and fucking rework it, and then for all we know, I've spent like 2 hours on reworking one sentence, and it's just a disaster. But the way that she kind of put it is that she wanted to start cycling every day. She wanted to cycle on a spin bike for 5 minutes every day, and that was what Casey Davis tasked herself with. And she was super motivated. She wanted to get her fitness back up. She probably did feel a wee bit of pressure on that. Just had a kid, has to lose some weight, that kind of pressure. But said, look, it's only 5 minutes, and that's an easy enough thing to do. I'll be able to do 5 minutes. woke up the next day. Did she fuck go on that spin bike? And she's completely open about it as well. And she was like, nah, it didn't fucking happen. But instead, what she did was she called it on ramping. So she actually she lowered the time to 3 minutes. She was like, look, I'm going to do 3 minutes of cycling. She was able to get on the bike the next day. She did 3 minutes. She did 2 minutes over the time that she'd actually set. And that was the on-ramp to her actually finishing a task. And she says it's the same with like dishes. So like, don't task yourself to do all the dishes. Clean one plate, clean 2 plates. And then before you know it, you're already doing the task. You'll be able to batter through it. And I think that to me was like very, okay, this is how it is. And as Azuri's saying, like the perfectionist thing, it's definitely hard to like start things. But I think that's not a motivation problem, is what Casey Davis is saying. It's a task initiation problem. And
yeah.
I was on to you immediately after I read about it. I was like, Joy! It's task initiation I've got a problem with.
Yep. Yeah. It's a thing that it's really funny to me because when I worked at the publishing house, I was given the difficult clients, which I now realise was code speak for neurodivergent. And I was given them, and I jived really well with them, and no one understood why. 10 years later, I get an ADHD diagnosis. Turns out I was on the same wavelength as them. But a lot of them would have problems with, a lot of like kind of writer's advice and a lot of creative advice is just do whatever you can in that day. And it tends to be like, if you write 1,000 words a day, that's 30,000 words in a month. And then that's like a whole thing and you're done. And it's going, okay, but if you have task initiation problems, looking at that and seeing 1,000 words on a blank page is daunting as fuck. And I always say to people, like people ask me, how do I get into writing? How do I keep up a schedule? How do I do this? And I'm going, set your goals as small as possible. A lot of professional writers only do about 500 words a day because that it takes the mental load to form the idea, sit down and do the thing, maybe edit the thing a little bit until you get it where you want it. And some people, it was a big thing on Twitter a while ago, and people were going, well, I do more than that. I'm better than these professional writers because I do 20,000 a day. Are you doing 20,000 good words, or are you punishing yourself to create more and more and creating an unsustainable work ethic that you will eventually crash and burn from because you cannot sustain it? And because that's a problem with I have with a lot of people was they'd come to me saying, oh, I'm doing 1,000 words a day, or I'm doing 2,000 words a day. I can do it really easy with fanfic. I don't know why I can't do it with the original work. Well, fanfic is fun. There's no pressure for it to succeed. And also, a lot of the hard stuff's already done. The world building's done. The character development's done. You're getting to play in the sandbox. It's a fun thing. It can also be stressful, but it is predominantly done for fun. When it comes to original work, however, you're in charge of world building, character building, making sure the plot holes aren't there, and like it's a big, huge, daunting task. I say, there was one author where I was going, well, I only do 500 words a day. That's my minimum. I don't set my goal any higher than that. And I'm currently doing it for NaNoWriMo, for Camp Nano, that I'm doing in my Discord with my patrons, but it's not something I would do long term. And I will tell people, do 500. That's too much. Do 250. That's too much. Do 100. Still too much. Do 50. Okay, let's do 10 words and let's do them together. Write down 10 words and we'll do it together. And then if you want to keep going, I will let you keep going. I have literally held people's hands to get them started. And they write the 10 words and they go, actually, that only took, sometimes it takes an hour, sometimes it takes 10 minutes, but it's getting that task started and also having someone to say, it's all right. You don't have to start out perfect. You don't have to start out at your best. You just have to put it down on paper and start. And it's the same with any other task. If you have any sort of executive dysfunction or task initiation problem, you start out as small as you can and you just move on from there. And there will be days when you slip back into you have to do the least amount that you can do, and that's fine. It'll be fine if there's days when you can't do anything either. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means you had other priorities that day and your brain function was being taken up by something else. And
I
again,
do.
it comes back to removing shame from that as well.
Yeah, I think personally, I think I struggle quite a lot with like daily goals because like I don't think that's how like people work. I do think it's fine to set like a minimum, but like that 1,000 words a day just sounds like what if I have an off day? I mean, what if I have a really good day and I do 5,000 words? You know,
Yeah.
and I think that sometimes like it was kind of the attitude that at my previous job that was kind of taken. It's like, you know, showing up every day doesn't mean you're like 100% Monday to
Mm-hmm.
Friday. It means that maybe on a Monday you're working at like 45%, but your Tuesday you're on 100, and it differs. Like people's level differs because like there's like everything factors into that. Whether it's
Mm-hmm.
are you hydrated enough? Are you fed enough? Have you been able to go for a walk? Is there anything happening in your life that might cause you to be a wee bit distracted? And I think
Mm-hmm.
like hearing like folks say, oh well, you know, you've got to write 1,000 words a day, or you've not, or you're not going to make it, is kind of like the exact same advice that sort of more traditional self help books that
Mm-hmm.
try and impose quite a rigid thing. I mean, there's some amazing self help books out there. Casey Davis's self is a self help book,
We should
but
try and get Ron.
oh yeah,
We should try and get Ron and just sit there and go,
that would be
"Hey,
amazing.
talk to us."
Hi. Teach us your ways. But no, I think the like with that, it's something. I think there's a lot of really bad self help stuff as well.
There is.
Like
And a lot of it's neurotypical, but it's also
yeah,
harmful towards neurotypical people as
oh
well, and they
yeah,
don't realize it until they have a mental breakdown.
because
And it's just
yeah.
like, this is helpful for no one.
Well, there was
Like,
there was
it's,
one
yeah.
there was one I was reading last year that um it just sounded like the author was fucking inhaling their own farts for like the majority of it. I'm not joking. Like the it was you might have heard of it. It is quite a popular mainstream self help book, and it's called the 5 a.m. Club.
Yes.
And it is
Fucking hate that thing.
and it was interesting because like it was at a time where I was kind of like I wasn't in desperate need of like a self help book. It was more of a I think I had a spare Audible credit and I was like fuck it I might as well. And I sat and had a listen and it's the whole book is really really weird because it's told through a story of two professionals who get whisked away by this fucking billionaire guru to learn how he became a billionaire. It's like it's cringe. Everyone who's cringing right now in Twitch chat, it's cringe. But the basic premises of it is yeah, if you need to wake up and be doing something by 5 a.m. every morning, and that's doing something productive for your day. And then you need to go to bed. It was like I don't think it was as defined, but it was like 5 a.m. It has to be 5 a.m. And I didn't finish it because like I decided to give it a go. I was reading it. It was in an audio book, and I was like, right. Well, what I'll do is I'll get up at 5 a.m. I'll go for my productive walk, and I'll listen to more of this audiobook. And the more I fucking listened, the more I was just like, this is shit. This is
Hmm.
rubbish. Like this isn't actually doing anything because I feel like at the end of every section they were like, and wait until you get the magic bit in the next chapter. They would always say it. It was the next chapter was always the big secret that would unveil it all and put your life together. And it was like, nah,
It's hustle culture disguised as self help.
yeah, it
And I
was pretty
hate it
minging.
because it has a huge following on Twitter book. So like the Tumblr has Bookla and Twitter has their own book community, and a lot of authors are the 5 a.m. Writers Club on Twitter, and I fucking hate every single one of them because it's just so. I'm up at 5 a.m. and I'm writing. What are you doing? And I'm going sleeping because that is what is productive and healthful for me. I am
Mm,
sleeping at that time, and it's a club. It's a very hustle culture club. Like, oh, I'm awake and doing this at this time. I'm the early worm. There's worms outside at 10 a.m. when I get up to. It's fine.
yeah.
Like, I it's
It's like
It's hustle culture disguised as self-care and self-help, and I despise it. I remember reading it because it was a huge thing on Twitter for a long time, and there's so many people that have been indoctrinated into it. Like, oh yeah, you're not your best self unless you're doing this. Is it? You're maximizing your workday for as many productive
generate
hours
a
as possible.
passive income.
Oh, fucking hate it so much.
No,
But
I
it's
mean,
the whole like utilize as many hours a day to be productive. Sleeping
yeah.
is productive. It is a form of rest and self-care. It is productive.
I mean, I
Feeding
think,
yourself is productive.
yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting because I actually do get a bit of a kick out of waking up early, and I like going for my kind of early morning walks. But like that's very me, and it's not a. The only reason I like doing it is because there's no one fucking about, and I don't like seeing
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
But to be honest, it's probably the same reason that quite a lot of people like like late night owls. Like it's quite nice to be working at 1 o'clock in the morning sometimes because it's like the rest of the
The
world's
world's
kind of
quiet.
yeah, it's gone to sleep. So I
Yeah.
like I think it really is like what time of the day do you get the kick out of that the most? Because
Yeah.
like I sometimes quite like being late, but like late and productive because it's like no one else is really there to bother me. I'm not going to get a random phone call or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And
like
Alice also mentioned there as well, a lot of neurodivergent people suffer from delayed sleep cycle.
mm,
So a lot of people with ADHD have insomnia because they have insomnia because they cannot fall asleep at a time that is beneficial towards capitalistic hours. When I started working for myself, the best thing I ever did was I switched. And basically, I do my best work at night, and then I go to bed, and then I sleep in the morning, and then I get up, and then I start my day later on than most people do. And a lot of people go, "Well, that's really lazy," and I'm going, "Is it?" Because I'm still writing. I mean, my word count for the last week from my emails and everything else is about maybe 80,000 words. And I'm going, am I lazy or am I working 3 jobs? And I'm just doing it on my own time. I'm not doing it to the schedule that has been decided by, you know,
fuck. Sorry.
someone else. Like
every stream, it's like
capitalism.
no, it's every stream's capitalism, but also every stream's like, oh, another thing, shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I learn a lot on these streams. It's good. It's a learning experience for me just as much as we're trying to chat to everyone else. But
There's
yeah, I
always
think
someone sitting there going, stop being relatable.
like that's my point in what I was saying earlier. It's like when the ADHD accessible like resources are a bit too accessible, and you're gonna go, oh
Yeah.
fuck.
That was when I first started doing it. I was still really resistant to the idea that I had ADHD when I first got diagnosed because I'm going, but I do all these things, and my therapist was like, yeah. She's like, stop being ableist. You can do these things. And the thing is, I would not hold that standard to anyone else. I just do it to myself,
Yeah.
and it's very much internalized because you don't realize the extent of the. It is trauma because you are being continually told you're not good enough, and it does eventually have an impact. Or you're being told you're never reaching your full potential because if you just tried a little bit harder, you would be so like it's when we get fixated and when we have energy, we tend to go 110% and we get everything done. It's fantastic, and everyone goes, "Well, why aren't you doing that all the time?" Because that's not how the brain works.
Yeah. If you want me to do that all the time, I would just be fried like constantly. Yeah.
Like it's really like I'm like, can you give 110% all the time? No, stop asking me to do it.
There's
It's difficult to untangle. It really, really is. But when you do start to untangle it, you're just like, oh, everything is shit because it's been manufactured this way.
I think there was a point you kind of raised there that like sometimes like it's the kind of holding yourself to a different standard than like everyone else. Now I've occasionally ran into some kind of conversation on Tumblr, and it's like I've not yet done it in regards to kind of like standards in regards to neurodivergency or ADHD or anything like that. But I remember once on Tumblr that I posted kind of casually about not being super happy with my weight, right? And it was funny. I was in Edinburgh yesterday, and I met up with a friend who did fencing like me. We were in the Scottish fencing team, and like a lot of our childhood was all around the sport and what that meant for us in regards to how we should look. I mean, we were literally like 8 years old and we were doing like calisthenic training and all this kind of
Mm.
stuff. And it really kind of has impacted both of our. I mean, the thing is like. It was actually quite refreshing to hear him say that he has the same issue because I've always been I've always been quite broad. I'm not the tallest person in the world. He's a fair bit taller than me, and he's relatively slim. And he like both of us were like we actually don't look right. Like we've always struggled with the concept of our weight and how our bodies look. So it was quite interesting having that chat with him. But sometimes I've felt when I've said something like that on Tumblr. Now, obviously, Tumblr being Tumblr, you're gonna get these kind of comments, but like it's not a standard I would hold anyone else to. When I'm complaining about my own weight or I'm like having a gripe with my fitness level or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, I'm not saying that everyone should be at that fitness level. It's just like my own experience. I suppose like where's the separation? How can we
Mm-hmm.
say like because again I don't want to caveat it with like I'm only holding myself up to this standard, but it's like I'm not saying that I'm special. It's just like it's a standard that I've kind of held myself to and I wouldn't really hold
It's
anyone else
it's
to.
the one
It's
that would make you feel comfortable within yourself,
yeah,
and it's removing the idea of again removing shame from it,
yeah,
because a lot of us feel shame over it, and it's been a big thing for me when I've worked on coming to terms with the fact that I am now multiply disabled. I've always had the thing in my genes that would eventually make me disabled,
mm-hmm.
but I used to be someone who was really active. I used to be on track team. I used to do all sorts of things. I did yoga at instruction level. Um, and now there's some days when I can't get out of bed. And obviously that has severely, I have no muscle mass anymore. I've finally just gained enough weight that they're happy to let me start exercising because I won't lose everything right away,
Mm,
and I need to completely rebuild my core. I have no core strength left because I spent a year and a half on bed rest, and that destroys you.
mm,
But it was what was needed for my health because I could not be upright for that year, and I had a lot of shame over that. It was that kind of it was that again, that idea of I've let myself go. No,
mm,
this is what my body needs at the moment, and your body is never you have to tailor things to what your body is when you are healthy, or as
mm.
healthy as you can be. And there's so much pressure for what health should look like. There
Yeah.
are people that have vastly different bodies from me, and they're so much health. Like I'm whatever I am. I think I'm like 9 stone at the moment. And my mother freaks out because she's going, I remember when you were 8 stone, you look so wonderful, you look so healthy. And I'm going, according to my doctor now, I was underweight.
Mm,
But that was because I looked a certain way. She's like, well, you looked healthy. And I'm going, do I look unhealthy now?
yeah. I mean, the
I
thing
don't
is,
think I
like,
do. Yeah,
fucking BMI has so much to fucking answer for. It is literally the worst
it
fucking
is.
thing
And
because
it's
it's
not based on any science.
no, it's fucking it's garbage and it's. I mean, to be honest, there's massive issues with like again being on TikTok, of course, as I am a TikTok star. I've come across like fitness TikTokers
Mm-hmm.
and so many like there's now quite a like I feel like there's now a bit more of a pushback against it. But like see the guys that are absolutely shredded and they're like here's how you get a six pack in like a week and they're fucking like they're just lying on the ground with their six pack out and they fucking
And they're
like they do
dehydrated.
they do a couple of
They are
crunchies and you're
dehydrated.
like fuck's sake that's not health that
Yeah.
doesn't count
Yeah,
um
and it's really kind of it's insidious. It's really insidious, the idea that
mm,
only certain body types are healthy.
yeah
And it's fair. You may want to change. You may want to lose a couple of pounds because it will make you feel better about yourself. That's fine. It's no shame to you or anyone else. I
mm,
mean, but you may also wish to gain weight, and that's fine as well. But there needs to be the removal of shame from the conversation because I think that's what's really harmful. It's
mm,
the idea of, oh, I'm not good enough until I'm this way. No,
Yeah.
it's what will make you comfortable. It's not about being good enough. You're already good enough. You exist. And it's what would make you feel personally a little bit better about yourself. Like for me, I'm at the point where I could stand to lose 5 pounds because I suffer from acid reflux because my EDS means that my esophagus doesn't work properly, and any extra weight that puts on that causes the acid to come back up into my throat. That's bad. If I lose the 5 pounds, that'll go away. So that is my goal. I'm not doing it to fit a number. I'm doing it to stop other physical health problems from happening. I'm not doing it for an aesthetic reason. It's purely just so that my GI doctor stops telling me the dangers of throat cancer from
Yeah.
acid reflux. So it's like, okay, sure, that's fine.
Mm.
But there's no shame motivating it. There's no aesthetic appeal motivating it for me because I have completely lost all that.
Mm.
Disability stripped that away from me. And I will still have days when I'm like, oh, I'm not really, I don't look like I used to. I'm never going to. And the thing that you need to realize is bodies are impermanent and they fluctuate, and that's perfectly normal. There are
Mm.
some people whose genes mean that they stay the same weight their whole life, and there's other people that go up and down, and that's just the way their bodies are. That's fine. Bodies are bodies. They're gonna
Yeah.
do what they're gonna do. The least you can do, and the most you can do is just take care of it.
Mm.
That's it.
Sorry, I've just realised that I'm actually going to have to say thanks, Southern Orchid, for redeeming the bicep curl. Because the last thing I want is for someone to be watching this on YouTube, me not having said that, and just thinking that I'm
Just
a
start
wanker,
flexing.
a wanker that just starts doing bicep curls on a fucking podcast. That would not be. That would not be cool. In fact, someone will have clicked off when we post this on YouTube afterwards. Someone's going to click off at that. Um, but no, I think that is a really good point to make, Joy. I think there's like a standard that you like hold yourself to, and like if you want to gain or lose that amount, like that's fine. I do think that the fashion industry does play a lot into it though, like so
Yeah.
many clothes not being designed for certain types of bodies. For example, I've always had broad shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
which sucks when buying t-shirts. It's rubbish, right? Because for a long time I was a medium, and then my shoulders got bigger, and then all of a sudden I was up to large, and then large had to be is like weirdly like fit my shoulders, but then just like super boxy.
Yeah.
Whereas a medium one would pull all of the material across my chest and then be so fucking tight to my stomach that it just didn't look good. Um,
Yeah.
and there's so obviously I feel like clothing
And a huge
designed
part
for
of that is the lack of tailoring, because again, it's
yeah
only been until very recently our clothes were not tailored.
yeah
Um, and it's that kind of like you look at celebrities, they're wearing the exact same T-shirt you're wearing, but it's tailored, so it looks good.
mm-hmm.
And it's for me, it's that kind of acknowledgement of like, oh yeah, the fashion industry, it's one size fits no one.
yeah
It'll fit like maybe 1% of the population, but for the rest of us, it's one size fits no one. You'd be better off getting something that's tailored. Um, and it takes money. It takes time and money to find a tailor who will
mm.
do that, or you learn to do it yourself. Um, for the time I was going, I'm going to learn to tailor my own clothes, and I'm like, no, I don't have the time for that. That's one more thing I do
yeah
not have time for. But I also don't have the money to go and take stuff to be tailored.
yeah
Um, and it just leaves you feeling a wee bit rubbish about yourself because you're looking at it going, well, how come the model looks good? Well, the model, they don't show you yet, but the model's typically got a clip in the back that's making everything fit nice.
yeah.
You know?
And see, like, there's pretty much. I thank you very much, Queer Eye. By the way, I learned about French tucking. French tucking
Yeah.
is the go to way.
It's the savior.
I pretty much wear like anything that isn't like. I mean, I don't French tuck t-shirts like this, but any sort of like cloth kind of t-shirt gets French tucked because it's the only way to make it look remotely fitted.
hmm
I also end up having to fucking roll up the sleeves like 3 times because otherwise it's just this giant square that's like
Yeah.
fucking comes off there. Because like, again, I'm not super into my slim fit stuff. I can't like I used to be. And it's weird. I used to be super. I feel like everyone's now making me do exercises on stream, and I have to do the shoulder presses. But like I think the way that like the way that fashions kind of worked. It's never super. The only thing that actually looks amazing on me is a kilt. I've realised that I should just wear kilts more fucking often. But like, see having like a like a tailored or like adjusted and I think that's one of the reasons why it's always looked good. But whenever you go and you hire out a kilt or whatever it is, like the person will make adjustments to it so it looks amazing on you. So it's always the perfect length. Your jacket's always perfect. There's a whole bunch of stuff that just looks sharp. If you're ever wearing a kilt or ever need to hire a kilt, you've got to go with the Prince Charlie jacket. It's impeccable. They
do look good. They do look good. I will say that.
There's more modern versions that are more like suit jackety, but there's just something good about a Charlie jacket.
It suits the line of the kilt because the kilt tends to sit at a different level from the trousers as well.
Yeah.
And it just looks off if you have it with a suit one, I think, because it's the wrong dimension.
And like there's something nice about the Prince Charlie kilt is that it actually like it tapers like the waist in. It's like it's all very angled. It's very wide, but it's like it aims it in, and then of course the kilt is then kind of just like starts fairly underneath it. Also, are you like in your experience, Joy? What's your ideal kilt look? Do you do bow tie, or would you prefer bow tie or like tie? Because
I like both.
Oh, okay.
It really depends on the color. It depends on the entire ensemble to me. The bow tie I think can be very dapper, but I understand that you can get really nice tie. Like you can do different knots that look very, very intricate and very lovely. Because when I worked weddings, I would see a million different looks, and I've never seen one that I've gone, don't really like that. But I think the traditional bow tie kind of brings it together quite nicely. But I have also seen people have done really intricate knots, not just like when I say intricate knots, a lot of people think Windsor knot, but there are other ones you can do with a tie. And I do think it just depends on what you're going for. I think a tie can look very nice if you get a nice tie pin. I think that's a really good way to clamp that up.
No, that's fair.
But yeah, I literally saw hundreds of them. I used to.
Yeah, I can imagine. You've served your time catering and looking after a whole bunch. Yeah. Nah, I think for me it would be the like waistcoat, Prince Charlie jacket, bow tie. It's just the business.
Well, I've seen. Have you seen the trend where they're not wearing the waistcoat anymore with the kilt?
No.
What is the point of getting a kilt and you're not doing the waistcoat? What is the point?
Yeah.
It's like a kind of like casual kilt wear, and I'm like, no, it's a kilt. It's formal wear.
See, this is where I think like kilt culture is weird and very Americanized at this point. Like, which is I remember when it was the Proud Boys wore their kind of, was it the Veritas kilts? And everyone always goes
the combat kilts.
Yeah, and everyone goes, "Oh, I love Veritas so much. They make these amazing Pride kilts." They don't make Pride kilts. They make rainbow kind of skirts. Like there is a Pride tartan. Why would you not want to have a Pride tartan? That's a million times cooler.
We have an official Pride tartan that we want people to wear.
But like, instead they were like, "Oh yeah, these are the Pride kilts," and it was just like really naff, like rainbow paneling, like actual solid block colors. And you're like, ugh. But yeah, also tactical combat kilts can just fuck off. Like no one, like, oh, I want a kilt that I can open carry with. fuck off.
It's the chino of the culturally appropriative. It's the people that are signaling that they would have been part of the Ku Klux Klan openly if they could, because that is a huge. In case you're not aware of this, the Ku Klux Klan has Scottish roots, unfortunately. And a lot of it comes from the idea of clans and being the underdog. And unfortunately, they took that mentality and they used it to oppress others, which is not what you should do. Yeah. So whenever someone says to me, "Oh yeah, I love tactical kilts," I'm kind of sitting there going, "Do you just like the aesthetic, or are you someone that I need to disengage talking with right now?"
Yeah, I don't understand. And the problem is that those people wear a kilt and go to their local fucking Target or wherever it is, and then post on Facebook into like Scottish groups being like, people were giving me weird looks at Target today because I was walking around in my tactical kilt, and it's always just the kilt. There's never any sporring. There's never anything like, anything good about it. It's just, yeah, it's not it's not a good look. I've never understood the intense desire to wear a kilt normally, because for me it is a formal thing for me.
It
Like
is.
I wouldn't
Yeah, I
I wouldn't
understand
really
people who want to wear them casually. I do
yeah
understand that
I
because it is.
yeah I think I can see people wearing them more casually, like cutting about Scotland. I just sometimes think it's a wee bit of a stretch to be like, oh, how do I connect with my ancestors? Oh, I'm going to buy the nearest tactical kilt that allows me to carry my Glock into into
Yeah,
Target
it's
because it's
yeah.
got a strap for carrying, and it's just very naff in my opinion. I'm not
Kilts,
wild about it.
it's a kind of I've seen a lot of people who like kilts because it's gender non-conforming in their culture, and I
Yeah,
understand that fully. I
that's
embrace
fair.
that fully. I'm like, good, fantastic, do you? But if you're using it so that you can conceal and carry, no,
The thing
it's
was,
just that yeah,
it was a concealed carry thing before. We have ski and do's,
yeah,
but if you're carrying a gun, it's like, yeah, cringe, man.
yeah. Yeah, I mean yeah. It's again that kind of like I don't go to any of the St Andrews stuff here or the Scottish Pride stuff here because inevitably it's just police that are there like talking about it's that kind of white nationalist sort of thing, and you'll maybe get the occasional person that's there because they're genuinely interested, but I have no interest in taking part of it because to me it's not my culture. It is a skewed view of my culture that is based on several centuries of white supremacist rhetoric that a lot of Scottish people would deeply cringe at. And I know there's people who do deeply cringe at it. I mean, the fact that the
There's,
guy who founded the clan came from Ayrshire,
mm,
people in Ayrshire are mortified. It's
yeah.
that kind of like, we're sorry, we're so sorry. Like, this is not how, Scotland is not a white utopia. It is a multiracial, diverse nation. But these people all think of it as the utopia that doesn't exist anymore. It's like the myths of Avalon to them. It's mythical.
Yeah, like there is that weird mythical slant about Scotland,
Yeah.
particularly like in America. I mean, one of the I remember when it was popped up in my YouTube recommendeds until I was like, no, I'm definitely like ignoring this channel
Blocking
forever.
that.
But it was a Scottish guy, Scottish YouTuber, um, definitely leaned into like just Scottishness as their brand. Now, you may be wondering, hang on a minute, whose Twitch channel's this? And haven't you done the exact same fucking thing? But I mean, I'd say I'm probably more like Scottish politics kind of orientated, and it's why I don't have a haggis emoji. Fair enough, I'm maybe pushing it a wee bit with the Iron Brew, but I've never been like,
You're
bagpipe
not wearing the
short.
Jimmy hat and it's not
Yeah,
off by the now. Like
yeah,
that.
I'm not wanking over shortbread or anything like that. But like this
It's
guy,
the only fans.
oh no,
I
no,
cost the extra.
yeah, you're giving me ideas now, Joy. That's good. But not like so what this guy, and he actually did. He went to America and he was like Scots guy in America, and like really annoying, stupid clickbaity fucking YouTube thumbnails and all the rest. But he actually toured all of those events that you cringe at, and he was invited to be he was invited to be like the spokesperson. He was a speaker, and he was like, like he would post his speeches at these events, and he would stand up on this stage in a field somewhere with like 50 other people who were like doing it. He would do like address to haggises and all this sort of stuff, and it was like, you are killing me over here. It was horrible. It wasn't. It was so weird seeing someone basically slag themselves out to like every single like
Yeah.
meeting in the US. I mean,
I don't particularly. I think Neil Oliver, the historian, is not fantastic. But
He's
when
awful.
he did, he's awful. But
He's
when he did
awful.
the look at the Scottish, how Scotland is used as a white supremacist dog whistle for here, his documentary on that I thought was fantastic because he was at these events, and I've never seen him look so uncomfortable. Like he was he was kind of like looking around like, this is just a Nazi rally. Like this is just like, he was just like really like they were arguing with him like, oh, today I'm more Scottish than you, and it's just like, he's like, right, because you're wearing a kilt and I'm not. And he's like, yeah, because I adhere to my family traditions and values. His family, you know, like it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just like a weird. It was a really weird thing, and
the
it's
clan,
the one documentary of his that I will recommend because it shows you just how viscerally uncomfortable it is for a Scottish person who is aware of white supremacy and aware of the cultural connotations of certain phrases. He's standing there and he's just kind of looking around and like, this is not just even cringe, this is dangerous.
I'm guessing
You know?
that was filmed a fair bit ago because he's went off the absolute deep end. He's now like,
It was a couple of years ago now, yeah.
right. He's now like anti-globalist, anti-vax. Like he's absolutely went off the deep end.
Because that documentary was not like that. It was very much, you have a, you know, care for community, and it was, you know, it was very kind of grounded, I thought. But the stuff I've seen from him more recently, I'm just like, what, did you drink the Kool-Aid? Like, what happened? Like, and
how do you go from A to B? But I think it was like he discovered he got more of a reaction and more support.
Yeah.
Because he's now a presenter on GB News, I think, which is like, you know, kind of eye twitch levels of yikes. But I think, like, I mean, fair enough. He does have a point, and I do think that, like, we've ran into this on Tumblr a million times before, haven't we, Joy? When it comes to like ancestry, and I feel like the clan thing is something that, like, I don't know many Scottish people who are genuinely interested in clans for clans' sake. Now, like, I wear the tartan of my mum's side, but beyond that, like, I don't know the history of it. I don't aggressively like go out my way to go and like seek out pilgrimages to places that the clan was or anything like that. It's not something that I actively pursue, but I feel like sometimes I still get like DMs and like, you know, a lot of people I can't answer all the fucking asks I get because I would just never get anything else done. But like, there's so much of like a oh, do you know this clan name? Oh, do you know anyone that's in Scotland with that clan from that?
Do you know the McLeods? Like,
yeah, and it's like, please stop. You're killing me over here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it. It's just something that I would, and I think like, kind of looping it back round, I think Scottish independence would actually allow us to address quite a lot of that. I feel like we could actually get to a point where we kind of realign, like, sure, at the end of the day, we're going to have to, like, connect with our diaspora in some way. And I think, you know, there's lots of Scottish diaspora out there that are pretty, like, it's interesting that Scottish and Irish diaspora is very, very different. Like, I feel like a lot of American Irish have this connection to Ireland or like a more kind of aggressive support. Whereas, like, I never really feel like there's tons of Americans with Scottish ancestry that really, really back independence or are really vocal at like obviously there were in the past lots of rich Americans that gave a lot of money to the cause of Irish independence and things like that. I don't feel like there's ever any that kind of thing like with Scotland. I mean, I don't know, but I've never gotten the.
It's not on the same level. It's very and a part of that is that the Irish faced major prosecution when they came over here for being Catholic.
Yeah.
Whereas the Scots that came over here tended to be, well, either we were forced off land, or we were the rich Protestants that came over to basically found the South.
Yeah.
So there wasn't the same level of discrimination that took place. Like, you know, most of the South, it's really funny because if I go down south, I can use my accent normally because people will understand it because it's the same language structure. So there's that difference where you had, you know, Irish settlers in the US were still getting persecuted for being Catholic. They often came from very poor backgrounds, and the same could be said for some Scottish groups, but a lot of that was Scotland itself actually, as part of their
Part of the
imperialism,
empire, yeah.
helped found the South, and that
Plantation
makes a huge
owners and all the
difference. The
rest of it.
plantations, yeah, they became plantation owners. The thing that bugs me is they came from being, they considered themselves to be underdogs under English rule, and then they fucking founded plantations over here. That to me is a huge thing that is not addressed as much, and that also I think feeds into the fact that there's other minority groups that have a worse reputation over here, and therefore they are more invested in Irish independence and all these other things.
So sorry, America, we exported a lot of our cunts to you.
Yeah, we did. We're sorry.
We're sorry.
We're really sorry.
Those institutions are the same today.
Yes,
like very much influenced. We're sorry.
Yeah. But I think it's Scottish culture today is different from that.
Oh yeah, like, and I think
it's evolved beyond that to a certain point, whereas America's still very young. It's still using that as its foundation for how to do things, and they haven't evolved past that yet.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much the problem with America is that obviously in an ideal world for the kind of far right, they would want to think, we're founded entirely on Christian principles, and all that kind of shit. But when it comes to America's still so young as a nation that it's why they a lot of them are so obsessed with ancestry.
They're looking for roots. They're looking for a place to belong, and it's like the place you belong is America.
Yeah, and fucking muck in and make the place better.
It is that idea of they're trying to. There's being an immigrant myself. There is that tendency to want to hang on to parts of yourself. Yeah. It's I have things in my house here that I would not have in Scotland because I have no need for them. Like I have, my mother sent me a lucky white heather that I've managed to keep preserved for a decade at this point. Probably wouldn't have bothered with it in Scotland because you can walk down the road in City Hall Street and buy it off somebody. Yeah. But it's, things like having wee bits of tartan and wee bits of home and I even have this god awful Our Willie statue that my godmother gave me.
A full on statue.
I can find it for the next stream. It is haunted. It is the most cursed thing in my house. I feel like I can't get rid of it because it's from home.
It's home.
And it's home. I understand that want to belong somewhere when you feel like you don't belong. But the thing is, for Our Willie, it's a character named William, and we call him Our Willie. It's a thing called the Bruins. Azuri, don't make it something it's not. But I understand that
giant cock statue in Joy's house.
But there's also that kind of, it becomes mythologized, and it becomes a case of, well, my family's this, therefore it is, this is where we actually belong, and they have this romantic ideal of it that is not accurate.
Yeah.
Because my idea of Scotland is very different from theirs. Yeah. They talk to me about, rolling hills. I'm going, yep. And blah, 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 and clans. I'm going, not really had clans for a couple of centuries now. Yeah. And then they talk about things like, the lack of technology. And I'm going, we invented the fucking television. It's just, they think it's Braveheart in their head still.
Oh, yeah.
It's the myths of Avalon. It is a place of purity.
And that's the thing with the mystical bit we were talking about earlier. It's and I think, to be honest, I actually think it applies quite broadly of the view of Europe. I think they kind of understand that London's quite technologically advanced in Paris and stuff, but they do think that they would visit a wee French village and it would be proper medieval towns and things like that. I remember when my dad toured the US with Celtic. He was constantly meeting people who were like, oh, and do you have cinemas and stuff in Scotland? And I was like, yes, we do.
Do you have the telephone? Yes, we invented that too.
We invented the telephone.
It's just but it's a weird thing. It's weirdly mythologized, and it's very removed from reality, and that's the danger I think with that. And it's very telling when you're talking to someone who they either have an interest in actual Scotland or they have an interest in the romanticised ideal that is based on white supremacist values, and it's very telling. And it's that kind of like cringy, kind of like I don't really want to talk to you because it's I don't know I unless they come
Because
and,
it'll cause me physical pain.
it will cause my blood pressure to rise and then I will faint. That is
Yeah.
basically what will happen to me. But it's weird. It's weird being Scottish in this country, and you never know if you're gonna. And it's basically someone that's like a weeaboo, but for Scotland, and you're kind of going, are you just someone with an interest in family history, or are you someone that is using this to justify your warped view of racism? So it
Yeah.
is. But I always people will message me worrying about that and going, "You're worried about it, therefore you are not that other person."
Sorry, I'm just gonna Azuri. We are banning the word Scotaboo from the chat forever.
We're
That's
banning it from life. We're not using Scottish for anything.
that's not something that we're ever gonna allow. That deserves jail time. Yeah, no, that's there is that though. I mean, I don't think on Tumblr I get like too many like super duper Scottish like fetishists. It's a market that I've not tapped into yet. I'm saving that for when I'm doing my erotic novels. My erotic Highland novels. I'm gonna make a whole bunch of
Oh,
them.
they make so much money. You should just do it.
I don't This is the guy Lorne.
Warm sausage.
Lorne's like Lorne fucking hell. Like
The
your
thing
main
is, it's a name. It's a popular name over here.
Lorne.
Lorne, as in the sausage,
Lorne.
because they think it's Scottish. They call themselves Lorne. And it's basically you're going, you realise you're just calling yourself beefcake.
I'm trying to think what Scottish food would actually be the best name for someone. Like, you wouldn't call someone haggis, that's just insane. But, like, you could maybe get away with calling someone like Cranachan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
You can't call someone Cullen Skink.
I mean, you can if you're not being nice.
Cockaliki.
Cockaliki. I mean, you could probably get away with tabby for tablet if you wanted.
Oh. Yeah, maybe.
Very cutesy tabby for tablet. What else is Scottish? What else Scottish food do we have?
It's Scotch egg.
Scottish egg, which isn't even Scottish. It's
Nah.
Write a gay novel. You can call the protagonist. I'm not saying that word out
No.
loud. Which...
No, we're not saying that.
Tatty Scone is a cute pet name.
Yeah, my wee tatty scone is that is definitely gonna be the
It's the equivalent of my little petit choux, my little cabbage.
yeah.
My little tatty scone. There we go.
My wee tatty scone.
Oh, tatty scone.
Sorry, imagine trying to write like an erotica like sex scene in a book and the the big Scottish Highlander says, "My wee tatty scone." Just to this to the American woman on holiday. Or even worse, you have a nice tatty scone.
No.
Is that
No.
crossing the line? Yeah, we're crossing the line.
A little bit, yeah.
I'm trying to think of what other Scottish food. That's a roundup, I think. Aurascala, that is absolutely not the case. I am not trying that on Jess.
Sleeping on the couch.
I will be kicked in the face, and I will deserve it.
I'm looking up Scottish foods now, just because I want to continue this tangent.
Mince and tatties.
My wee Scotch pie.
Scotch pie, tatties. Yeah, that's the same level.
Meeps and tatties. And meeps and tatties sounds kind of
mince
dirty a wee bit, if you
yeah.
can say it. Stovey. My wee Stovey.
My wee Stovey. See, the thing is they're all cutesy names. You can't like you can't sexily call anyone like any Scottish food name. It's always endearing. My wee Stovey.
Sorry. It's not even that funny, but it's killing me. The idea of calling someone a wee stupid.
Yeah, like the thing is that
potatoes and corn.
the what's it fucking
Oh man.
like the thing is like we don't have much else. Like we've obviously got amazing seafood, but there's not like a dish revolving like you can't exactly call someone a deep. Oh no.
I can't stop laughing. Oh man, okay, yeah. I mean, you could call someone my trickled trout if you wanted to, which
I'm just
fairly certain would also get you banned.
so sorry, this is gonna get me banned from Owen's stream, but like I'm just thinking of writing that sex scene and referring to his cock as a deep fried Mars bar. I feel like that's what we've that's all. That's what we can do. I mean, what else is there? There's gotta be more. Like the problem is that with Scottish food, it just breaks out more and more into fusion dishes. So like you've got you fucking haggis pakora. Sign me the fuck up for that. Haggis pakora's good. My wee haggis pakora. You can't call someone a haggis pakora. You can't. I mean, haggis fajitas, haggis, basically all of Scotland's fusion foods with haggis.
Colonel Butcher, violent crunching noise with every. No, but yeah,
but a delicious melted sauce in the middle.
There's an author that I read who compares a lot of bodily fluids to food, and it puts me right off because one of them was after giving oral sex was it's just like custard, and I'm like, I can
no
custard ever.
No, what the fuck?
See, it was like, and I'm like, I love like custard's one of my favorite foods, like desserts, and the texture's just like custard, and I'm sitting there like,
that's disgusting. So you know that reminds me, because for those of you who watch my other streams who have been playing Stardew Valley. And in Stardew Valley, you obviously run a farm and you can make your own farming goods. And one of the things is mayonnaise, and you do that with eggs, right? So you can make mayonnaise with eggs. But in it, you can also hatch dinosaurs, right? And dinosaurs then lay eggs. So you can put a dinosaur egg in the mayonnaise machine, and you can create dinosaur mayonnaise, right? The description for dinosaur mayonnaise is thick and creamy with a vivid green hue, and it smells like grass and leather. And it's just like the most revolting fucking description for mayonnaise ever. That never like yeah.
It's not. That doesn't mean edible.
Yeah. No, it's not. Sorry, you only gave us custard there. What else is it? What other foods does bodily fluids get likened to?
Mincemeat pies. A lot of them get compared to like jelly tarts and stuff like that. It's insane in romance the food that gets compared to bodily functions. Some of the people who follow my blog probably know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to drag her on main for that. But there's a lot of them are like, oh yeah, it tastes like custard, or you smell like mincemeat pies, or oh, you smell like a chicken dinner or something like that. And I'm going, how is this sexy? How is this like a thing?
Sorry, like, in what world is it good that it tastes like custard?
The one where someone's got diabetes and you're taking them to the nurse. Like, it's that. Honestly to God, if I was going down on somebody and it tasted like custard, I'd be going, you have diabetes, we're going to the doctor. Like, it's just like, yeah,
You're making me feel very self-conscious now. I'm feeling like, fuck, has it been tasting like custard all this time? I need to eat more pineapple, fuck! Oh dear, well that was a chaotic and horrible end to things.
I think I overheated myself. I need to go and get more water because I'm literally just overheating and laughing.
That's very fair. We are also keeping to a schedule, Joyce, so you need to go and feed Holly up, I think.
We do.
and I'm gonna need to recover for the next hour anyway after hearing that some people are describing things like custard.
It's custard.
I'm guessing the substance was cum, right?
Yes.
Okay, it wasn't. Like, I mean, like pea shouldn't be tasting like custard either.
No, it should also have if it's the consistency of custard. There's other
Oh
happening.
fuck! Ah. See, the thing, I'm never gonna be so like it's like caramel shortcake in custard is a really nice thing to have, and I'm never gonna be able to fucking look at it ever again, ever again.
I'm so glad I've been able to share this with you. Just ruin it.
I think fucking I have my first spoonful. It's like tastes like custard, and it's just gonna like trigger an event back to this stream, and I was like,
memory from this stream.
I'm not sure if it's like the red anger core memory now that I'm gonna whenever I think about it, I'm never gonna be able to like fucking walk down the bakery aisle in Asda. I'll be like, hang on a minute. Ah, dear. Right. Fuck. Okay. Thanks for joining the stream, everyone. I know what section. I know what section we should clip for the fucking promo for it. Right. Okay. I am gonna do the wrap up for Joy. Obviously. It's so much easier for me to share Joy's praises. If you haven't picked up Joy's amazing book or short stories or audiobook, you absolutely should. You can get that available in the link that I've just posted there. It's a way to support Joy. It's via PayHip, so it gives you a couple options, I think, when you're buying Joy. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So you're able to get the audiobook there. You're able to get both different versions of the book, the Fluff and Fangs and the Flirting with Fangs version. And
some of the short stories.
And some of the short stories, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you want to join Joy's Patreon and Discord and get in on the writing, there's a link there for that too. So that can be like a monthly subscription, and it helps support Joy and all the wonderful work that she does. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel where this will be going up. You can relive the custard consistency conversation over and over again. And you'll be talking about it with your therapists at some point in the future, I'm sure. Over to you, Joy.
Yeah, and if you're somehow new here, welcome to your first stream. I'm so sorry. Please consider subscribing and following Aye's channel. He does wonderful work here. He does a lot of streams during the week where he does a lot of fun games. It's a very chill vibe. He has a really great community, and you should consider joining his Discord because there's lots of wonderful people in there. And if you really like what he does, you should also consider donating to his Ko-fi because Aye is currently looking for work on top of what he's doing right now, and you should support him because he's wonderful and he puts up with my bullshit.
Thank you. No, that's good. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll have a host of new topics next week. Food of which will be one of those topics. This is it now. We're now in hell. This is going to be it going forward. But this has been our sixth episode.
Sixth episode,
which isn't bad. And we also will try and think about how we maybe get the audio from this cut onto a Spotify,
a streaming platform or something.
We'll work it out. But
yeah.
Yeah, all good. Rogue Rowan, you're both lovely. Thanks for the trauma. No problem at all. Well, lovely seeing everyone, and we will see you next week at the same time.
Have a good rest of your night, everyone.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.